Okay, we're learning a short Maamar on Parshas told us. Possibly we've learned this Maamar before. Let me bring up the text here. I believe this is it. Okay. It's a Maamar about the digging of the wells by Yitzchak. So it says on our father Yitzchak, it says Vayachberu avdei Yitzchak, that the servants of Yitzchak dug the wells. So it says Vayachberu avdei Yitzchak benachal, that the servants of Yitzchak dug in the nachal. Be'er chafur sarim. He connects this to the idea of the wells that are dug by the masters, or the saras, the ministers. What does this all mean? What is the idea of the digging of the wells, and how does it affect? What does this mean in our Avodas Hashem, of our service of God? The Talmud teaches us in Bechayris, al pasuk, on the verse that says in the beginning of Bereshis, it talks about how there's the four main rivers that come out of the Eden, the Garden of Eden. So it says, Vanar Ravi, the fourth river to break out of Eden is Pras, the Euphrates River. And it says, so the Gemara says, Hu Dimi Ikara. That is the main river, means it says that there was one river. And from that river split the four rivers, which the river in the Gihon, etc., the rivers in Africa and across Macedonia. So it says that the Euphrates River, Pras, is the main river. That was the original river. That the other three split off from it, and what remained was the Nahar Pras, the Euphrates River. That was the one that turned into four. But this is the one of Pras is the original. The Hainu. That three split off from the main river, the main source of water, and this is the fourth itself. It's brought down as well in. It's brought down that Kol Hanoris Lamata Mipras. All the rivers are lower, so to say, from the Euphrates River. B'chol Mayanas, and all the springs Shaba'olam within the world. Noivim Misuma de Pras kind of take their source is from what's called the ladder of underwaters of the waters of Pras. So the waters of the Euphrates River, so to say, Pras, is the underwaters, the Suma de Pras, like the ladders that go underneath. That is the source of all the springs and all the underwater water sources. Hey, Danny and Sharna. Pirish mitachas lekarka noike v'hoilich ad shebachafira mu'etes yimsa be'er maram chayim. That what? That all the rivers, that the Euphrates River, the Nar Pras, is on the Suma de Pras, kind of in the underwaters, under the ground, comes under the ground, and with a little digging or some digging, it says chafir muetes, a small amount of digging, you'll find what's called a be'er mayim chaim, a well of live water. We know that in the waters of kedusha, of holiness, when we talk about the different levels of water that could be used for mikvah or for purification, the highest level is a be'er mayim chaim. The chura, which is used also for the waters that they use for the paraduma, for the sprinkling on the person who becomes in contact with death. So then even the be'er mayim chaim and other processes of purification, we use the well of living water. And where is the origin of this water? Where does this water come from? Is that from the Nahar Pras and the Suma de Pras, kind of the underwaters that go from the river of Pras, create these springs of live, natural, fresh water. So the question is like this. Why do we call it as if when a person digs a well and finds a spring of natural water, fresh spring water? Why do we call it fresh spring water? It's not fresh. It's as if the water it has its source from under the ground. It comes originally from the Nahar Pras, from the Euphrates River, and there it goes under the ground, and then you find it. But its source is not. It's not be'er mayim chaim. It's not like its own source of water. It comes from the water that's over the land. So what we're going to explain basically is in Avodas Hashem, is that even if something in its origin is one way, But by going through certain challenges, like the water has to go through the underground, that itself purifies the water and changes its identity. That from being a waters that overwaters, waters that were flowing in a river, they become Be'er Mayim Chaim. And it's a much higher, much more pure water, not just in drinking, but also as far as purification goes, like I said, for purifying a person who gets in contact with impurity. But the idea is like this. The river left Eden. So we know we have Gan Eden. So there's Eden and Gan Eden. Gan Eden means the garden of Eden, right? So if you have a house and you have a yard, it's the yard of the house. So what's the Iker? What's the main? The main is the Eden. Eden, Gan is just the garden, is just the garden of Eden. The river left, kind of came out of Eden, the Hashkais to bring the water to the Gan. What's the Gan? The word Gan, garden in Hebrew, makes up of the two letters Gimel Nun. And the Gimel Nun, which is, the Nun is the number value 50, and Gimel is the number value of 3, which corresponds to the Gan Sidrei D'Oraisa, which is the 32 parts of Torah. Pirush, Kidu is known. So here he goes into that void. What does it mean that the waters come from Eden? The Hashka is a Gan. So the Gan is the 52 Mesechtes of Torah, of Torah Sheba'al Peh, of the oral Torah. So what does it mean to your grade, that the water should come in and so to say the river should come and be brought down to the 53 parts of Torah Sheba'al Peh? So he says like this: for a person to learn Torah is not just an idea. Torah is a way to connect to Hashem. So Pirush Kidu is known. A person, the first thing you have to do is accept upon yourself the yoke in completion. You accept upon your yoke of Hashem, that God is your Lord, and you are God's servant, and you're accepting like a servant accepts the yoke. Oil Malchus, the accepting of God's kingship in a complete way, not partially. The Hainu, what does that mean? Well, how do you really accept Hashem's kingship as shleimus in completion? The Hainu lahamin, to believe, v'emunah shlema, with absolute belief, v'achdus Hashem, in the oneness of Hashem. That what? He explains, Shua Mahava Kol Oilmus, he's the creator of all the world. V'kula kamei, and from the perspective of Hashem, Kol Chashiv doesn't take space. Meaning, which the idea of Kula kamei Kol Chashiv means that everything to God doesn't really matter. Meaning to say that you don't affect God. Creation doesn't affect God, and our behavior doesn't affect God. The Kula Chad is all one, because affect, by the definition of something being able to affect, means that it's lacking. If you complete something, if you bring shleimus to God, completion to God, it means God wasn't complete. So the achdus of Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, means there is nothing separate from Hashem. So therefore, there's nothing that's within creation or our behavior, or the behavior within creation that completes Hashem, because he was complete before. It's all achdus, it's all one. There is nothing, there's no outside existence that God needs to come onto for his completion. And that's the number one step in avodas, to believe with absolute emunah in this achdus, in the oneness of Hashem. Now, when do we start thinking about this achdus, this unity? Is the buildup of davening until we get to the Shema. And what is the statement of Shema? That's the statement of Shema. Shema Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Listen, hear Israel, that Hashem, your Lord, is one. Hashem is one. That when you look towards Hashem, you have to know the oneness. You have to accept the achdus, the oneness of Hashem. How everything exists is all one. When a person contemplates this in the Shema, the Yosim Leliboy, not just in your mind, but you apply it to your heart. So your mind should believe, but your heart should also feel it. Hativ properly, Inyan Achdus, the unification of Hashem. And knowing and accepting this unification, not as an abstract idea, but v'yikabel alav, the person accepts upon themselves the emes, actually, 100% in truth, oil malchus, say God's kingship. Knowing, ki Yaakov chevel nachalasai, that the Jewish people, not just at the Achdus, but also knowing our purpose in this world. That the Yaakov, meaning the Jewish people, is the chevel, is the string of his inheritance. Chefsam ledavka by b'chol levavam. What's the effect of this? When you really apply God's unity, and your connection and oneness with that unity is chefsam, is that your entire desire is the davka by b'chol levavam, that you want with your entire heart. The only desire you want is to connect to Hashem. B'chol levavam means anything your heart will desire has to be around this achdus, this to connect the lidvik, to connect to Hashem. You believe in His oneness, and that's what you desire. Means why does he say you believe in His oneness and that's what you desire? Because it's possible a person knows something, knows it for truth, but I don't want it. I know it, but I don't want it. No. You believe in God's unity, and that's what you desire to connect to. The problem is, like in anything, you have to be receptacle to this idea. Where's it going to actualize in your being? So he says, you have no place. You haven't created a space. Where are you holding this oneness? Where does it take place within you after you accept it? So you accept it in emunah, belief and desire, but within what? So he says, what is the kli? What is the vessel? Where the oneness of Hashem and your desire to connect to Hashem could hold. Where does it go? It goes in your study of Torah. And that's why Shmiyat, right after a person accepts upon themselves the yoke, meaning that you have emunah, belief in God's oneness, and want to connect, that's your whole desire is to connect to that oneness. It says afterwards, you have to start learning Torah. That's why we say in the Shema, v'dibarta. Because where do you put God's unity? In the v'dibarta, in the words of Torah. V'dibarta is in the speaking of the words of Torah. Meaning, yilmoid b'in machshavtai. You study in the depth of your mind, v'sichlai, your thoughts in your mind, v'dibura, in your speech, v'torah shvapeh, in the oral Torah, which is the Gan Sidri D'Oraisa. The 53 parts of the Mesechtas of Torah Sheba'al tractates. But before you learn, the idea is not just to learn, but before you learn, is Yisbainin B'Achdus Hashem. You have to contemplate in this oneness. So you have to connect the oneness of Hashem to your studying of Torah. And this affects that the oneness of Hashem becomes one in your thoughts and in your studying of Torah. And that's what the idea of a nar yaitzi mi'edin, the river of godliness through your accepting God's yoke, is representative of the river. That's the flow down. And where does it go? It goes into the Gan, into the garden. It's the garden. The garden is the 53 tractates of the Mishnayos. Pirush mi'edin, what's Eden? Hey Ariel, mi'im HaKadosh Baruch Hu shnikra Eden, from God, that's called Eden. V'nahar hu lashon hamshacha, the river represents flow. Pirush kasha yumshach elikus milmayla lemata b'kabolas malchus shemayim, when you create the flow. How do you create the flow or get in touch with the flow? By accepting upon yourself the yoke of God, of God's kingship. Hamshacha zois mashkes agan, so then this flow of accepting the yoke comes and waters the garden of the 53 tractates of the Mishnayos, Siyat Torah, which is Torah. She dal damas shal halacha, you know that the Mishnayos and Torah Sheba'al Peh is what we call the 4 cubic space of law. You know, the dal damas shal halacha is an expression that's ever since the destruction of the Holy Temple. Where could you find, where's godliness? In the dal damas shal halacha, in the 4. In your inner space, every person's space is 4 amas of the law of the Torah. This is the Holy of Holies. It's the studying of the law, and here he kind of is what the Alter Rebbe is adding is it's not just the idea of the, so to say, the Talmud, the pilpul, the discussion of the oral Torah. But the idea that it comes down from the Mishnayos to the halacha. We know that in all the Torah, where does what's called the Holy of Holies within Torah is the law. The Torah is the sanctuary. That in the laws of the Torah is where that's the vessel. Means you can't have a commitment to God's oneness and a desire to connect to God's oneness if you don't have Torah. The place of that what does that come into? What's the receptacle of that? Is the studying of Torah, specifically the laws of Torah. So when a person brings the flow, connecting to the idea of God's unity through prayer, through the Shema, and that's the importance of studying Torah right after you daven. The studying of Torah right after you're davening, that's why there's in many circles, in Klal Yisrael, there's the idea of learning halacha, a Rambam, a shir, daf yomi, something. Better even halacha shir. That's why there's a lot of kashrol's have a quick study of halacha right after davening, 1 or 2 laws. Why? So because you have to have a receptacle for the tefillah. The prayer is you want to bring the flow of God's unity, but it has to have a receptacle within you, and that's in the study of the Torah. Mamash every shul, I go to Ashkenazi shuls here, Sephardi shuls. Everyone has a quick halacha after shachris, and some places even after mincha. But that's your shir right after davening. What happens after your shir right after davening? Your mind comes preoccupied in all the things of the world. You go to business, you go to work, you go to do your job, or other things that you preoccupy yourself with. Things of this world, this low world. What does it mean, shafal low? Because it's not connected consciously with the Avodas Hashem, with the oneness of Hashem and the study of Torah. And by focusing on other things, other matters, not forbidden matters, but worldly matters, you forget. You're no longer connected in the focus you had, in the contemplation of accepting God's yoke. Why? So he says, because at the end of the day, as your physical person, you don't have the ability to concentrate on 2 things at one time. When you're davening and you learn, so you daven, you accept God's yoke, and you're learning the Torah that's the receptacle, that's the lahashkes sagan, to water, so to say, the 53 tractates of the Mishnah is the halacha. But you go out to the world, your mind doesn't have the ability to stay focused like that. You're focusing on your work. Rabbi Levitin told me, the Rebbe told him, even within studying of Torah, because you can't do 2 things 100% at once. It doesn't work like that. No one can do it. And you start distancing yourself, not consciously, not willingly, but by definition, when you're concentrating on something else, you're distant now from what you had in your das, in your understanding and connection when you daven and you learn Torah afterwards. So the Rebbe is not calling foul on that. The Rebbe is saying, so what do you do? How do you infuse and kind of shuckle and wake yourself up throughout the day to make sure to reconnect to the commitment you made in davening? Davening is a special time, and the learning after davening is the receptacle of that time. So therefore, he says an amazing thing. And it's mamish something everyone could connect to. Throughout the day, you have opportunities to do mitzvahs. And the idea of the mitzvah is you don't need the whole kavana, you don't need the whole focus, the whole 30 minutes. You're walking by a poor person, you stick your hand in your pocket and you give tzedakah, you did a mitzvah. You make a bracha. So many opportunities are saying, God gives us opportunity throughout the day to do mitzvahs, commandments. Mitzvahs ma'asis, when the idea of the actual mitzvahs, not the studying of the halacha. They're so deep at their root, a mitzvah so deep at its root. You may think, how could that compare? Sticking my hand in my pocket and giving charity to a person, or wherever it is that you're going to do your mitzvah, to the studying of the Torah, but the actual mitzvah, the mice of the mitzvah, is so deep at its root. God enclothed it, creating this opportunity that it's so tangible to you. It's so in your reach that by doing a mitzvah, maisius, an actual mitzvah, what you don't understand is you're connecting to something so deep in God and His great kindness, and clothe it into something so tangible and accessible to us throughout the day. But in those seemingly worldly, simple acts, that you have the hint of their root, of how deep they are. My mitzvah tzitzis, for instance, when you're wearing tzitzis throughout the day. The mitzvah is very deep up in the concepts in the higher spheres. And when the person says, what's the big deal? I go to the store, I buy pre-made tzitzis that has the 8 strings on the 4 sides and has the knots. But through that, you're walking and you're wearing a mitzvah the whole time. And all the other mitzvahs that people do throughout the day, the ones that are constant, the ones that are come around. No one's asking you to do great fixing when you do a mitzvah. Just do the mitzvah. You don't have to have the intention of their truth, of their essence. At the end of the day is to fulfill the mitzvah. Yes, you enhance a mitzvah with the concentration. And you say, the halach, it's the brought down. Why don't we make a bracha when we give tzedakah? Because until you make the bracha, the person's waiting for the money. So at the end of the day, it's the bottom line. It's a ma'isa. At the end of the day, the mitzvah is not dependent on your intentions. It says even if a person drops a penny and someone finds it, it's a mitzvah. The mitzvahs are all set. It's turnkey. It's ready to go. It comes down, ready just for you to do the action of the mitzvah. And when the person does the mitzvah throughout the days, when you're disconnected, you're no longer focused and have that reality, clear connection that you had during davening and the learning after davening. The very fact that you're able to bring down the flow. Before we said that davening requires the avodah of the hamshach, that you have to bring the water, the river down from Eden into the Gan, and you have to study. Not by mitzvah. It's not your avodah that creates the flow. The mitzvah is all ready. All you have to do is act on it. The mitzvah itself has its own strength. But that doesn't work like that by Torah and Tefillah. Torah and Tefillah is avodah shebalev. You have to be open to the davening, feeling what you're saying, connecting to what you're learning. Studying Torah and davening does depend on the avodah of the person and the kavanah, the intention of the person. But a mitzvah is unlike that. A mitzvah is ready. A mitzvah doesn't need you. The mitzvah, all the mitzvah is relying on you as the action. Everything else, the flow, the creation, that mitzvah is all set, ready to go. So what should a person have? What intention should a person have when one does a mitzvah? She is understand why you have the opportunity to do the mitzvah. Why does Hashem give us these opportunities throughout the day? You're not doing God a favor. Pashat, God is gifting you an opportunity that when a person is misbain and recognizes, contemplates. You're sitting at your desk, and you're thinking, I feel so disconnected. I sat there davening, I sat there learning, and right now I'm so preoccupied. Good, I'm supposed to be thinking, I'm working. That's what the Rebbe used to say. Have a tzedakah pushkin in your office. The Rebbe was very into having a charity box by your desk, by your office, in your workspace, in your kitchen. You're cooking. The Rebbe used to say a woman's cooking or the man's cooking, whoever's cooking. Reach into your pocket, put in a few pennies, a quarter, a nickel into the tzedakah pushka. These opportunities. What's the idea? The idea is that you're thinking, you're preoccupied. You think how you're ma'od rachik Hashem. I'm so distant. Because I'm so busy with all the things that are happening in the world. Again, you have to do it. The person has to go out to work. But at that moment, I'm not feeling connected. The Gashim is chumrei v'avanosav, masach hamavdil. You're feeling that there's even sometimes if there's sin involved, God forbid. So you're feeling the masach, the separation, the screen. That's levilti hiskarev el Hashem afilumat. You can't even get close because not just that you're not connected, but you also could have created obstacles. Bisbainim is a hativ hadek, and you should think about this properly. V'yishper liboy bisbainis, and you feel a bit broken. Why am I so disconnected? V'yichna levavim mipnei shemikol makom chafetzu l'skar v'Hashem b'terasei, and your heart kind of says, but I want to be connected. V'yichavim b'mitzvah shenizdaman lo b'asai say when you see, I could do a mitzvah now. Right now, that's one of the things that no matter what, how you're feeling, you're not feeling great for whatever the reason, emotionally, because of what the Rebbe describes over here now. You're feeling distant, you're not feeling close. Maybe you did things that you don't feel you're not proud of, and that's not saying, no one's saying that doesn't have to be accounted for, and no one's saying that that doesn't have to be examined at its proper time. But right now, you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, and that mitzvah is all set, ready to go. All you have to do is do it, and that's why it's called Be'er Mayim Chaim, the river, the well of fresh water. When a person now realizes that I have this mitzvah that came to me as an opportunity. Nistamna liyade means it's been given to me as an opportunity. I say, now I could just do it. This goes to the question that Alter Rebbe asked before, that how do we call the springs, wells of fresh water, live fresh water, when its origin comes from the Nahar Pras? It's the river waters that are going underneath the ground. So why are you calling it Be'er Mayim Chaim? Because that whole hisbaininus, this whole contemplation, this whole recognizing that the opportunity of a mitzvah is a lifesaver. That's why it's called Be'er Mayim Chaim, the river, the well of living water, because the mitzvah is a lifesaver. You felt so disconnected that the opportunity now to do mitzvah, although the mitzvah is a connection to what you studied, but where you're holding right now, it's a lifesaver. So therefore, he says, Be'er Mayim Chaim, this mitzvah now is like a well of living water. Yes, it came under the ground from the river. The river itself is not called the river of live, like a live spring water. It doesn't have the halachic conditions of that. It doesn't purify like the well, like the spring does. But because the water went out of the river, under the ground, breaking through the dirt and the stones, that represents the person breaking through that separation and finding an opportunity to do a mitzvah. Then it becomes Mayim Chaim. It becomes a lifesaver, water of living of the living well. Because it changes. The water changes by going through, pushing through. It's like the person and the mitzvah are connecting. The person's feeling distant. That's why he's saying that the only kavanah, the only isbaininus, the only contemplation one has to have before the mitzvah is not about, I'm doing a mitzvah now and I'm bringing down a great flow. You're not doing anything. The flow is coming. The mitzvah is all ready to go. The mitzvah, you have to recognize that the mitzvah that has been presented to you is an opportunity. That although you're distant, and because you're distant, and yes, you have to do work, and maybe possibly you overdid it and created screens and walls. But you and the mitzvah are connecting to each other. The mitzvah is pushing towards you, and you're trying to get that water. And that process of you pulling towards the mitzvah, looking for that opportunity, changes the water that started off as river water and becomes Be'er Mayim Chaim, a well of live water. It's a lifesaver for the person throughout the day in their spiritual connection. That is what it means to do a mitzvah throughout the day. What created the river? Yes, the river that you're drawing from was created from when you davened, like we said, and that's the river that comes down from the Eidin Lahashkes Sagan and goes into the receptacle of Torah, the study of Torah after the mitzvahs, after the davening. But then when you went out to work, it hid itself. The river is no longer there. Like it says, you no longer feel that connection of the river that you had during davening, that you created with your avoid and your kavanah and your contemplation and your davening properly. And where did it get nelam? Where did it get lost? Where did those waters get lost and buried? Are they gashmias through being out there in the world? Shukai skufei kol hayoyim. And what you don't no longer desire godliness, right? You're out there motivated to make it, be better than the next person, have something better than the next person. These are all not godly desires or agendas that you have. But then when you find this opportunity, the mitzvah breaks through all that. Now that comes from this river that you created. So what the Alter Rebbe is saying is over here that there's a process. First, we have to establish the river flow. And that is the davening and the learning after the davening. Otherwise, the river just has nowhere to go. It goes into the davening. Then, yes, you disconnect throughout the day. And maybe you're not proud of all you're just all of a sudden your drive changes. Davening, you only cared about bringing godliness down to the world. Like he said, what was your whole desire? In the Achdus, the oneness of Hashem, and to connect to that. That's your whole desire. All of a sudden you got to the world, and that's not your whole desire. Your whole desire is to do well in your job. Your whole desire is to make money. Your whole desire is to buy nice things with the money. Not all of them are for serving Hashem. So you're no longer connected to that river that you created in davening. But the rivers are underneath all that. Yes, it's covered, but in that, and then you're trying to, when you're disappointed with that, this kind of struggle you have within yourself, if the waters are breaking through all that to come out and give you an opportunity to do a mitzvah. When the person remembers, I did accept. I was so focused during davening. I wanted only God. Now this is why I'm doing the mitzvah, based on what I committed to in the morning. To accept the yoke of Hashem. I don't feel in the river anymore. I don't see the river. I don't feel the river. That river that I created during davening is no longer, I don't have awareness to it anymore. But you remembered, I did commit to this. The environment overwhelmed me, and I lost focus for a little bit. That's like a shot of life when you reconnect to that through the opportunities of doing mitzvahs throughout the day. It's so sweet and pleasure to you. This little avodah that you could do every opportunity you have. The avodah in this case is just to recognize that the mitzvah is a lifesaver for you. That's what you have to connect to, knowing that Hashem created this opportunity. You walk down the street, you see a person, someone asks you for a favor. Oh, he's bothering me. She's bothering me. I'm trying to go to work. What do you mean trying to go? The opportunity is, this is an opportunity to reconnect. It's so sweet and pleasurable for the person to do this opportunity, to reconnect. It's like a person who finds this well, the spring. When you dig, these are live waters. The water changes, becomes so fresh, such a lifesaver to you. It's not even the same river water that maybe then you didn't appreciate. All of a sudden now it's this fresh drinking water. It's the highest level of purity. They should offer because it had to push through all this dirt that you created to cover over the river. Yes, this water comes from the river. This mitzvah comes from the river of the connection of Torah. But now it had to push through to reconnect to you and you to it throughout the day when you no longer have that river available to you. And then he says, V'zeu shahaya rizal, sameach ma'oid b'siyas mitzvah. This is what it means, simchat mitzvah. What does it mean, the joy in doing a mitzvah? The joy by recognizing how much a mitzvah is an opportunity. How much the mitzvah reconnects you to where you really want to be. What you really want to be committed to, what you really want to what your drive should be, and your focus and motivation should be. It's so powerful when a person connects to the simcha of the mitzvah, the joy and the opportunity of the mitzvah, that it even gave the level of Ruach HaKodesh, the divine presence that the Arizal had, because he really connected to the simcha. It wasn't about his service. That I did avodah, I was able to daven so great, I was able to learn so great. No, but really excited that Rizal was able to do a mitzvah. Ki a mitzvah, because he says the mitzvah, b'fnei atzmai, atzmam kedushasim. The mitzvah itself is the holiness. It's all ready to go. It's mamish. All you have to do is connect to realize that this was a gift to you. That you just found the well, you just found the spring. Recognize it as a spring, not that your room got flooded. Right? All of a sudden your space is filled with water and opportunity. That's the simcha, and the mitzvah is all ready to go. You have to do nothing. He said, there's no avodah. Doesn't need you to do anything. The mitzvah is all, as soon as you do the mitzvah is fully loaded, ready to go. But canal, like we mentioned before. All you need to do is to have this abundance, the contemplation of your disconnect from Hashem, how shuffle, how low you were from being close to want to be close again. This is true humility. That we talk about Moshe, that Moshe had this humility to understand that it's humble. It's humble to look at a mitzvah like that. The Alter Rebbe is saying you're humbling everything. It means a total different view of a mitzvah. Mitzvahs Pashat, the Eibush is sending you opportunities throughout the day to reconnect. Ki ikra shiflis mifnei ka'adam she'amru efshar liyas ki maderech zeh she'roi b'chaver she'yoseh karv l'Hashem. What's the true shiflis? When you see in another person, oh, look at that person, that person could stay focused and I can't. That person's closer and I can't. And then all of a sudden you get a mitzvah, and then you say, look, I could also do something. Nothing stops a person. That's why I'm saying a mitzvah. What's so powerful about a mitzvah is what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here is that really understand the mitzvah doesn't need you. All it needs is for you to do it. The mitzvah is so connected, so deep, so rooted in the holiness, all ready to go. Just do the mitzvah. And that's why he says, nefesh seveya, a satisfied soul, means someone who's full. Tavus naifes is like the honey is like disgusting. You don't want to eat anything. Nothing tastes good, right? Too full for dessert. So if you were hungry, not only you'd be, wow, it's such a nice piece of cake, but now it disgusts you because you're full. Shafilu hadvash marloi. When a person's full, even the honey is bitter. Avil nefesh rieva, a hungry soul. Kol mar matak, even bitter is sweet. Pirish be'er ma'im chayim hanal, it becomes, this river water becomes sweet living water. Adei chfirasei be'afar gufay, having to push through the dirt of your body. Then this water becomes sweet and satisfying to you. Because your body and your being is so starving to be able to do something for God because you've been so disconnected throughout the day. As we talk about later, we're going to learn about this again about Midbar, about the river, the be'ers, the wells and the springs that were dug by the Saram, and the Saram also, of course, is talking about Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, especially Avram Yitzchak, who dug the wells. So I think we can possibly learn this a short Maamar. Like I said, it's short but very powerful, very meaningful, and something that we can all act on. It's something that Maaseh pilots. We have opportunities throughout the day, and understand them as opportunities. Jump on them. There's opportunities to reconnect. Laila Tov, everyone. Take care. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi.